Now, to a murder mystery that stumped investigators in Willoughby for more than 40 years. No one knew who killed 25-year-old Nadine Madger until today.
January 11th, 1980. 25-year-old Nadine Madger was brutally murdered inside her apartment on Grove Avenue in Willoughby. Stabbed more than 40 times with a knife from her own kitchen. Her husband, Mark, found her on the dining room floor.
The oldest case solved, Nadine Madger, 1980. This is another sad case without a known motive. We all want to know why what happened, but in this case, even when they were able to later identify the killer, the motive was still unknown. How a man with a good average life sorted himself to kill a woman without any reason? We could have said she rejected him sexually or insulted his appearance, but this wasn't likely as he didn't sexually assault her before he took her life. The most frustrating part of this is that he lived a good life and died even before they were able to figure out his wrongdoings. In this video, I will be talking about the death of Nadine Madger and how her cold case was solved. But before we start, I would like you to drop a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. There was no motive for this crime. This was so evident that even the police came out to say that they could not explain what happened, saying, "We have no idea if he knew her or how he knew her, or why he chose that particular apartment, or why this particular day. These are the sorts of things we're looking into." Chief Schultz has requested that anyone with information contact the Detective Bureau of the Willoughby Police Department at 440-953-6210. With this update, we hope that someone out there who may be able to provide new information about this case, he said. The police department in Willoughby, Ohio, held a press conference on July 13th to announce the arrest of the suspect in a homicide cold case investigation dating back 42 years. Nadine Madger, who was found dead in her Grove Avenue home with her husband Mark and baby son Dan, has been positively identified as the murder victim, according to Chief James Schultz. Schultz mentioned that Madger, then 25 years old, had been stabbed more than 40 times on January 11, 1980, between the hours of 1 and 3 p.m. Mark got home from work at around 5 o'clock and discovered Nadine in the dining room. Dan, the couple's baby son, was still in his playpen in the living room, only a few steps away from the dining room where his mother was murdered with a carving knife. The child suffered no actual harm. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, a neighbor saw a canary yellow Dodge Dart parked in the lot. The knife used in the terrible act, according to the police, was found in the kitchen. Schultz told investigators that he found no signs of forced entry or sexual assault, and that, except for a knife, nothing was missing. The police lab's 1996 analysis of Nadine's blouse revealed not just blood from Nadine, but also blood from another source, male DNA, which Schultz called extremely significant in solving the case. As a result of the assault and murder, the perpetrator sustained injuries. Using information from the crime lab, the Lake County Prosecutor's Office, and the Virginia-based integrated technology company Parabon Nano Labs, Willoughby detective Gabe Slay began constructing a family tree and eventually determined that Simcac, a former U.S. Marine, was a match. On Wednesday, police said that a fresh look into the case had led them to a former Marine from East Lake, Ohio, a suburb northeast of Cleveland. Mark, visibly shaken, remarked at a press conference reported by the News Herald, "I felt Nadine's killer would never be identified." This group, however, never gave up. At a point, you would probably wonder if Nadine knew this man or had any previous altercations with him, but her husband said she didn't. They didn't even know who he was. Mark clarified that Nadine did not know Stephen and had nothing to do with him, adding to the confusion over a possible motive for the murder. Dan Madger, Nadine's son, remarked, "I am outraged that Stephen passed away as a free and carefree citizen before he could be discovered and caught," and in turn allowed for inquiries to be made and justice to be done. Willoughby police established that Nadine was murdered between 1:15 and 4:45 p.m., as stated in the official police statement, which is around when a neighbor saw a canary, or cab, yellow Dodge Dart, parked at the back of their building. In addition, investigators determined from Lincoln Electric Co.'s records that January 11th was the only day he missed work throughout the entirety of 1980. Simcac, who was 40 at the time of the incident, owned a Dart, as confirmed by interviews with his known associates. Simcac worked for Lincoln Electric at the time of the murder. Detective Gabe Slay said at a press conference that the deceased employee's time cards showed that he had only called in sick once during his employment, on the day of Madger's death. Another disturbing scenario in this criminal case was that the suspect and killer was a hard-working man. The police also discovered that Simcac had been working 2 other jobs in the Wycliffe area, just miles southwest of both his and the Madgers' home, at the time of the murder. He delivered flowers for Wycliffe Floral and tended bar at Vitantonio's vineyard. On the day of the murder, a witness noticed Simcac's canary yellow automobile parked behind her apartment building on Grove Avenue in Willoughby at around 1 p.m. The married father of 5, 3 biological and 2 stepchildren, lived in Bemis Point, New York, after retiring from Lincoln in 2002 after 37 years. Slay claims the division has exhausted all possible approaches and hypotheses throughout the years. In 1996, the Lake County Crime Lab found both Madger's blood and the assailant's blood on the murder victim's shirt, suggesting the killer was also hurt in the attack. The crime lab has spent many hours over the years analyzing and processing evidence in search of a possible identity match. The clothing was examined in 2014 by the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigations, which confirmed that the assailant had bled on Madger's shirt while standing perpendicular to her. Slay stated at that time that they had interrogated and compared the DNA profile to everyone on the initial suspect list, but had no luck finding a match. He said the police didn't start collaborating with Parabon Nanolabs, Inc., a DNA technology business based in Virginia, until 2018. According to Slay, Parabon offered both phenotyping, which may be used to make predictions about a person's appearance based on their DNA profile, and genetic genealogy. According to Parabon's assessment, the criminal was a Caucasian man with blonde hair and blue eyes, who likely originated from Eastern Europe. A number of suspects who didn't fit the profile were subsequently removed. The suspect's DNA was entered into GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA databases for genetic genealogy. The information was then compared to the profiles of all registered users. According to Slay, several matches were discovered, but they were all very distant cousins of the suspect. According to Slay, the process of creating a family tree of potential relatives began at that point. Their investigation led them to John and Anna Bonduranas, whose offspring bore striking genetic similarities with the criminal. Following this, Slay discovered the death certificate for their child, Simcac. Slay claims that they contacted his known children, who provided a DNA sample on April 28th after discovering the death record. Both LCCL and Parabon determined that the sample was obtained from the suspect's child. Slay concluded that Simcac was their suspect because of the 3,439.79 cm of shared DNA between Simcac's child and the suspect, which is only consistent with a parent-child relationship. Madger's husband and son also addressed the Simcac family during the press conference held for this case. Mark Madger, Nadine Madger's husband, has stated, "I have nothing against the Simcac family. They had nothing to do with the father they had. But I want them to have an accurate impression of their dad. He was a scoundrel, a liar, a killer, and a whore. In order to protect Nadine's anonymity, he hid the facts. He snatched Nadine away from her loved ones, but he stole her away from me and my son, Daniel, the most." Daniel Madger, who was in the playpen when his mother was killed, was enraged that Simcac was able to live for so long and remain free. Yet he said that he did not harbor any ill will towards Simcac's loved ones. At the end of the press conference, Schultz urged attendees to take advantage of DNA matching services like GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA. "Doing this may potentially solve a cold case like ours," he added, stressing that the databases are exclusively utilized for killings, violent sexual assaults, and the identification of unknown human remains. Without this, we would have had no way of knowing who he was. The best thing about how this case ended was that they were able to get closure even if they weren't able to find out what the motive was. They were able to identify the killer. The family of the deceased had also moved on and held no resentment towards the killer's family. To watch more videos like this video and subscribe to this channel. Make sure to also place your comment in the comment section below.